The morning sun cast golden rays through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Victoria Chen's corner office on the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower in downtown Seattle. The space was a testament to 15 years of relentless dedication, sleek Danish furniture, original Pacific Northwest artwork, and a view that stretched from Elliott Bay to Mount Rainier on clear days. Victoria stood at the window, her reflection merging with the cityscape, a steaming cup of Ethiopian single-origin coffee warming her hands. At 38, Victoria had built something remarkable. Chen and Associates Digital Marketing had grown from a two-person startup in her Queen and apartment to a thriving agency with 60 employees and clients ranging from tech startups to Fortune 500 companies. Her tailored charcoal suit fit perfectly, her black hair pulled back in a professional yet elegant style that had become her signature look. "You're in early again," a familiar voice said from the doorway. Victoria turned to see Marcus Wade, her business partner of 7 years and, until recently, the man she'd thought she'd spend her life with. His easy smile still had the power to make her pulse quicken, even after all this time. Tall and athletic, with salt and pepper hair that made him look distinguished rather than old, Marcus had been her anchor through the storms of entrepreneurship. "The Yamamoto presentation needs finishing touches," Victoria replied, setting down her coffee. "Their board meets at noon Tokyo time." Marcus crossed the room, his cologne, that expensive Tom Ford blend she'd bought him last Christmas, preceding him. "You know Sarah could handle those revisions. You don't have to do everything yourself." "Old habits," Victoria said, allowing herself a small smile. Sarah Winters, their creative director, was brilliant, but Victoria had built her reputation on attention to detail. It was why clients paid premium rates for their services. "Speaking of Sarah," Marcus said, his tone shifting slightly, "she mentioned wanting to discuss the Morrison Industries campaign. Something about needing additional resources." Victoria nodded, already mentally calculating budget allocations. "I'll meet with her after lunch. We have that buffer built into the quarterly projections." Marcus lingered, and for a moment, Victoria thought he might kiss her goodbye like he used to when they'd first started mixing business with pleasure. Instead, he simply nodded and headed for the door. "I'll be in client meetings most of the morning. The Brennan Group wants to expand their social media presence." "Marcus," Victoria called after him. He paused at the threshold. "Are we okay? You've seemed distant lately." His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just stressed about the quarter end. You know how it is." After he left, Victoria stood alone in her office, a strange unease settling in her stomach. She pushed the feeling aside. They'd weathered worse storms, the 2008 recession that nearly killed their fledgling company, the loss of their biggest client 3 years ago, her father's death last spring. Whatever was bothering Marcus, they'd work through it together. They always did. The morning flew by in a blur of video calls with international clients, spreadsheet reviews, and creative approvals. Victoria's assistant, James Liu, kept her supplied with green tea and perfectly timed reminders. James had been with her for 4 years, a quiet but incredibly efficient presence who seemed to anticipate her needs before she voiced them. "The Yamamoto presentation has been sent," James informed her at 11:30 a.m. "They've confirmed receipt. Also, Mr. Chen called while you were on with London. He said it wasn't urgent, just wanted to check in." Victoria smiled. Her younger brother David, a successful architect in Portland, had been checking in more frequently since their father's passing. "I'll call him back after lunch. Can you push my 2 p.m. to 2:30? I want extra time with Sarah." "Already done," James said with a slight smile. "I figured you'd want to dive deep into the Morrison campaign." This was why Victoria valued loyalty above almost everything else. James, like several of her key employees, had been with her through thick and thin. They'd built something special together, a company culture based on trust, creativity, and mutual respect. Lunch was supposed to be with Marcus at their usual spot, Pike Place Market's hidden gem of a seafood restaurant where they'd celebrated their first major client win. But a text came through at 12:15, rain check on lunch. Client emergency. Sorry. M. Victoria frowned at her phone. Marcus never signed his texts to her. They'd been together, professionally and personally, long enough that such formalities had long since disappeared. She pushed down the flutter of concern and decided to grab a sandwich from the building's cafe instead. The afternoon meeting with Sarah Winters revealed nothing unusual about the Morrison Industries campaign. If anything, Sarah seemed oddly nervous, constantly checking her phone and avoiding direct eye contact. Victoria attributed it to the pressure of managing such a high-profile client. The augmented reality component is ambitious, Victoria said, reviewing the proposal on her tablet. But if we can pull it off, it'll set a new industry standard. What's your timeline? Sarah tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear, a nervous habit Victoria had noticed becoming more frequent. 6 weeks for the prototype, another 4 for full implementation. I'll need 2 more developers and a larger content creation budget. Done, Victoria said without hesitation. This is exactly the kind of innovative work that keeps us ahead of the competition. I trust your judgment, Sarah. Something flickered across Sarah's face. Was it guilt? But before Victoria could analyze it further, Sarah was gathering her materials, mumbling something about a conference call with the design team. The rest of the afternoon passed in a haze of routine tasks. Victoria reviewed contracts, approved invoices, and participated in an industry webinar on emerging digital trends. But underneath the normal rhythm of her workday, that sense of unease continued to grow. At 6 p.m., the office had mostly emptied out. Victoria liked this time of day, when the frenetic energy of business hours gave way to quiet productivity. She was deep in financial projections when James knocked softly on her doorframe. I'm heading out unless you need anything else, he said. Go home, James. Enjoy your evening. He hesitated. Victoria, is everything all right? You seem preoccupied today. She looked up from her screen, surprised by his perceptiveness. Just one of those days where everything feels slightly off-kilter. You ever have those? More often than I'd like, James admitted. Just remember, your instincts have never steered you wrong. Trust them. After he left, Victoria sat alone in her office as the city lights began to twinkle beyond her windows. James's words echoed in her mind. Her instincts were telling her something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on what. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, working late. Don't wait up. Victoria stared at the message. They lived together in a stunning waterfront condo in Belltown, a place they'd bought 2 years ago when it became clear their relationship was as solid as their business partnership. But lately, working late had become Marcus's default excuse. She gathered her things, her mind already shifting to the evening ahead. Maybe she'd stop by the Pike Place Market herself, pick up fresh ingredients, and cook that Thai curry Marcus loved. Sometimes the way back to each other was through small gestures, little reminders of why they'd fallen in love in the first place. The elevator descended smoothly, carrying her toward the parking garage. Victoria didn't know that in less than 24 hours, her carefully constructed world would begin to crumble. She didn't know that the 2 people she trusted most were about to shatter that trust in ways she couldn't imagine. But for now, she was just a successful businesswoman heading home, hoping to reconnect with the man she loved, unaware that he was, at that very moment, in Sarah Winters' Queen and apartment, making plans that would destroy everything Victoria had built. The next morning arrived gray and drizzly, typical for Seattle in October. Victoria woke to an empty bed, the sheets on Marcus's side cold to the touch. A note on his pillow read, "Early meeting. Coffee's ready. M." She sat up, pushing her hair back from her face. The formal sign-off again. When had Marcus become M instead of the man who used to leave her silly drawings and inside jokes on these morning notes? The condo's open floor plan showcased Puget Sound even on cloudy days like this. Victoria padded to the kitchen in her silk pajamas, finding the coffee exactly as she liked it, strong, with just a splash of oat milk. Marcus knew her so well, which made his recent distance all the more puzzling. Her phone showed 17 emails that had arrived overnight, mostly from Asian clients. But one subject line made her pause: confidential, concerns about company finances, please review. The sender was anonymous, routed through an encrypted email service. Victoria's finger hovered over the message. In 15 years of business, she'd received her share of spam, phishing attempts, and crank messages. But something about this one felt different. She opened it. Ms. Chen, someone close to you is not who they appear to be. Check the Morrison Industries billing records against actual hours worked. Compare authorized expenditures to company credit card statements from the last 3 months. The truth is hiding in plain sight. A concerned friend. Her coffee suddenly tasted bitter. Victoria set down the mug, her mind racing. The Morrison Industries account was their biggest, worth nearly $2 million annually. Sarah Winters was the lead on that account, but Marcus oversaw all financial approvals. She dressed quickly in a navy dress and blazer, her movements sharp and purposeful. If someone was suggesting financial impropriety, she needed to investigate immediately. But she'd do it quietly, carefully. False accusations could destroy careers and relationships. The drive to the office felt longer than usual, rain pattering against her Tesla's windshield in a rhythm that matched her anxious heartbeat. She arrived at 7:15 a.m., the building mostly empty except for security and a few early-rising workaholics. Victoria's corner office felt different in the gray morning light, less triumphant and more isolated. She powered up her computer and began pulling financial records. Everything appeared normal at first glance: invoices, payments, receipts all properly filed and categorized. But then she noticed something. A series of charges to a company credit card assigned to project development that didn't align with any specific client work. The amounts weren't huge: $2,000 here, $3,500 there, but they added up to nearly $45,000 over 3 months. She dug deeper, cross-referencing the charges with project timelines. Her stomach sank as a pattern emerged. The charges coincided with times when Marcus had said he was traveling for client meetings, but the client contact logs showed no such meetings scheduled. The door to her office suddenly opened, making her jump. Marcus stood there, looking unusually formal in a black suit she didn't recognize. "You're in early," he said, his tone neutral. "So are you," Victoria replied, minimizing the financial windows on her screen. "How was your meeting?" "Productive." He stepped into the office, and Victoria noticed he was carrying a Starbucks cup. They had a premium coffee machine in the office kitchen, and Marcus had always been particular about supporting local coffee shops over chains. "Marcus, we need to talk about the Morrison account," Victoria said, deciding to probe gently. "I'm seeing some discrepancies in the billing." His face remained impassive. "What kind of discrepancies?" "Hours logged versus work delivered. Some expense reports that don't seem to align with project needs." Marcus moved closer to her desk, and for a moment, Victoria saw something flash in his eyes. Was it panic? "I'm sure it's just administrative errors. Sarah's been overwhelmed lately." "I'll look into it." "I'd prefer to review it together," Victoria said firmly. "This afternoon? I have back-to-back clients all day. Tomorrow would be better." Before Victoria could respond, her phone buzzed. David's name appeared on the screen. "I need to take this," she said. Marcus nodded and left, closing the door behind him with more force than necessary. "David?" Victoria answered. "Vic, I'm in Seattle for a conference." Free for lunch? The normalcy of her brother's voice was a relief. I'd love that. Pike Place at noon? Perfect. You sound stressed. Just work stuff. I'll tell you at lunch. After hanging up, Victoria returned to the financial records. The deeper she dug, the more troubling the picture became. Not just the mysterious charges, but patterns of billing irregularities that suggested someone was systematically siphoning money from client accounts. James arrived at 8:30, bringing her a matcha latte from her favorite cafe. You look like you need this, he said, setting it on her desk. James, Victoria said suddenly, have you noticed anything unusual about the Morrison account lately? He paused, choosing his words carefully. Sarah's been putting in a lot of overtime on it. And Mr. Wade has been very hands-on with the financial aspects, more than usual. Anything else? James hesitated, then closed the door. This might be nothing, but I saw Mr. Wade and Sarah leaving together last Thursday evening. They seemed close. Victoria's chest tightened. Close how? They were laughing, and he had his hand on her lower back. It could have been innocent, but... James trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. Thank you for telling me, Victoria said quietly. Please keep this between us for now. After James left, Victoria sat in stunned silence. Financial irregularities and possible personal betrayal? The two couldn't be connected, could they? She thought about Sarah's nervousness yesterday, Marcus's distance, the formal text messages. The morning crawled by as Victoria tried to focus on regular work while her mind raced with possibilities. Each time someone passed her office, she wondered if they knew something she didn't. Was she the last to know about whatever was happening? At 11:45, she left for Pike Place Market, grateful for the excuse to escape the suddenly suffocating office environment. The market buzzed with its usual energy, tourists photographing the fish throwers, locals browsing produce stands, the omnipresent scent of fresh flowers and seafood. David was already waiting at their chosen restaurant, a corner table with a view of the Sound. Her younger brother had their mother's delicate features but their father's height and presence. His concerned expression told her she looked as stressed as she felt. You look like hell, Vic, he said, standing to hug her. Thanks, exactly what every woman wants to hear, she replied, but her attempt at humor fell flat. They ordered salmon for him, crab cakes for her, and David waited until their drinks arrived before pressing. What's going on? And don't say just work. I know you better than that. Victoria found herself telling him everything, the anonymous email, the financial discrepancies, James's observation about Marcus and Sarah. David listened without interrupting, his architect's mind likely building a structure from the pieces she was giving him. You need a lawyer, he said when she finished. And a forensic accountant. This isn't just about your relationship with Marcus. If there's embezzlement happening, you could be held liable as co-owner. I don't even know for certain anything's wrong, Victoria protested. Maybe I'm being paranoid. David reached across the table and took her hand. Your instincts built that company. Trust them now. At minimum, protect yourself while you investigate. He pulled out his phone. I'm texting you the contact for Amanda Rodriguez. She's the best corporate lawyer in Seattle, and she happens to owe me a favor. Call her today. Victoria nodded, feeling slightly more grounded. How did you become the wise younger sibling? Someone had to be, since you were always too busy being successful, David said with a gentle smile. Dad would want you to be smart about this, Vic. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment. Their father had been an economics professor, a quiet man who taught them to value integrity above profit. Victoria could almost hear his voice. Trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. Choose your partners wisely. After lunch, Victoria didn't return to the office immediately. Instead, she walked along the waterfront, letting the salt air clear her head. She called Amanda Rodriguez from a bench overlooking the ferry terminal. David Chen's sister? Amanda's voice was warm but professional. He said you might call. Can you come by my office at 4 p.m. today? That soon? From what David indicated, sooner is better. Bring any documentation you have, emails, financial records, anything suspicious. Victoria agreed and hung up, staring at the gray water of Puget Sound. Seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries sharp against the ambient city noise. She thought about the life she'd built with Marcus, the company they'd created together, the future they'd planned. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, "Need to discuss Morrison campaign ASAP. Can we meet?" Victoria typed back, "In meetings rest of day. Tomorrow morning." Another text, this time from Marcus, "Working late again tonight. Don't wait for dinner." She stared at the message, anger finally breaking through her shock. How many late nights had been lies? How long had she been a fool? Victoria stood, straightening her dress with sharp movements. She had 3 hours before the lawyer meeting. Enough time to download every relevant financial document onto encrypted drives, create backups of all company correspondence, and secure her personal assets. If Marcus and Sarah thought she would crumble at the first sign of betrayal, they had severely underestimated her. Victoria Chen hadn't built her success by being weak. Whatever was coming, she would be ready. Amanda Rodriguez's law office occupied the entire 30th floor of the Smith Tower, a historic Seattle landmark. The space managed to be both imposing and welcoming, with Persian rugs softening the corporate edge and views that stretched across downtown. Amanda herself was not what Victoria had expected. Petite, with silver-streaked black hair and kind eyes behind designer glasses, she looked more like a favorite ant than a corporate shark. But the wall of accolades and the way her assistant jumped to attention suggested otherwise. "David speaks highly of you," Amanda said, gesturing for Victoria to sit in one of the leather chairs facing her desk. "He also indicated this is a sensitive situation requiring discretion." Victoria had brought a leather portfolio filled with printed documents. She spread them on Amanda's desk, explaining what she'd found. Amanda listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. "First things first," Amanda said when Victoria finished. "We need to freeze any accounts that Marcus has sole access to." "Do you have joint business accounts?" "Everything's joint. We're equal partners." Amanda's expression was grave. "That complicates things. We'll need to act fast but carefully. If he suspects you're onto him, he could move assets or destroy evidence. I'm going to bring in a forensic accountant, Robert Kim. He's the best in the business at finding hidden financial trails." "How long will this take?" "To get a complete picture?" 2 weeks minimum. But we can take protective measures immediately." Amanda pulled out a document. "This is a financial surveillance authorization. It allows us to monitor all company accounts for unusual activity without alerting other parties." Victoria signed it, her hand steady despite her inner turmoil. "Now, the personal aspect," Amanda said more gently. "You and Marcus aren't married, but you own property together?" "The condo, 2 investment properties, and several joint investments. We'll need to document everything." "And Victoria?" Amanda leaned forward. "If Marcus is involved with Sarah romantically, that could constitute a breach of fiduciary duty, especially if they're conspiring to defraud the company." "Do you have any proof of an affair?" "Just observations from staff. Nothing concrete." Amanda made another note. "We'll hire a private investigator. Catherine Murphy is discreet and thorough. She'll have answers within a week." Victoria left the law office feeling both empowered and exhausted. The sun was setting, painting the Seattle skyline in shades of orange and pink. She sat in her car for a moment, overwhelmed by the machinery she'd just set in motion. Her phone showed 5 missed calls from Marcus and 3 from Sarah. She ignored them all, sending a single text to Marcus, "Not feeling well. Staying at David's tonight." David's Capitol Hill condo was a modernist sanctuary, all clean lines and warm wood. He'd left a key with his doorman and a note on the kitchen counter, "Wine in the fridge, guest room is ready. You're stronger than you know. D." Victoria poured herself a generous glass of Pinot Noir and stood on David's balcony, looking out over the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably with Sarah, thinking he'd gotten away with whatever scheme they'd concocted. The thought made her sick and furious in equal measure. She barely slept that night, her mind replaying every interaction from the past few months, looking for signs she'd missed. Had Marcus's hand lingered on Sarah's shoulder during that presentation last month? Had their laughter in the conference room been more intimate than professional? The next morning, Victoria arrived at the office at her usual time, determined to maintain appearances. She wore her sharpest suit, a black Armani that made her feel armored, and her highest heels. If she was going to face betrayal, she'd do it looking impeccable. Marcus was already in his office, visible through the glass walls that had once symbolized transparency and trust. He looked up when she passed, his expression unreadable. Victoria went straight to her office and found James already there with her schedule and coffee. "Sarah Winters has requested to move your meeting to this afternoon," he said. She seemed anxious. "Keep it at 9 a.m., Victoria replied. "And James, can you stay close by during the meeting? I might need you to take notes." He nodded, understanding more than she was saying. Sarah arrived 5 minutes late, looking haggard. Her usually perfect auburn hair was slightly disheveled, and her designer dress had a small stain on the sleeve. She sat across from Victoria's desk, her hands twisting in her lap. "About the Morrison campaign," Sarah began, but Victoria cut her off. "Actually, Sarah, I wanted to discuss some billing discrepancies I've noticed." The color drained from Sarah's face. "Discrepancies?" "Hours that don't match deliverables. Expenses that seem inflated." Victoria kept her tone neutral, professional. "Can you explain?" There must be some mistake. I'll review everything and get back to you. I'd prefer we review it together. Now." Sarah's eyes darted toward the door. "I have a client call in 15 minutes. Cancel it." The two women stared at each other, and Victoria saw the moment Sarah realized she knew something. The younger woman's shoulders sagged slightly, defeat creeping into her posture. "Victoria, The door burst open, and Marcus strode in. "Sorry to interrupt, but we have an emergency. The Morrison Industries CEO is on the line. They're threatening to pull the account." Victoria stood slowly. Why would they do that? Marcus's jaw tightened. Someone sent them an anonymous email suggesting financial impropriety. They want a full audit. The three of them stood in tense silence. Victoria could feel the accusation in Marcus's stare, but she met it steadily. "Then we give them one," she said calmly. "We have nothing to hide, do we?" Sarah made a small sound, almost a whimper. Marcus's hand moved to her shoulder, an instinctive gesture of comfort that told Victoria everything she needed to know. "Sarah, why don't you gather all the Morrison files?" Victoria said, her voice like ice. "Marcus and I will handle the call." After Sarah scurried out, Marcus turned on Victoria. "What are you doing?" "My job. Protecting the company we built." "By sending anonymous emails to our biggest client?" "I didn't send anything," Victoria said truthfully. "But clearly someone has concerns. Maybe we should address them instead of pointing fingers." Marcus stepped closer, and for a moment, Victoria saw the man she'd fallen in love with, passionate, determined, slightly dangerous. "Be very careful, Victoria. You don't want to start a war you can't win." "Is that a threat?" "It's advice. From someone who still cares about you." He left, and Victoria sank into her chair, shaking slightly. The battle lines had been drawn. But who had sent that email to Morrison Industries? She hadn't, and it seemed unlikely Marcus or Sarah would sabotage their own scheme. Her phone buzzed. "Catherine Murphy, the private investigator, can you meet today? I have preliminary information you need to see." Victoria's war had begun, and she was about to discover just how deep the betrayal went. Catherine Murphy suggested they meet at the Volunteer Park Conservatory, an unusual choice that made sense once Victoria arrived. The humid greenhouse environment masked conversation, and the weekday afternoon meant few visitors. Catherine was waiting by the orchid display, a tall woman in her 50s with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She looked like someone's stylish mother until you noticed how she catalogued every person who passed, every exit, every potential threat. "Ms. Chen," Catherine said quietly, leading her deeper into the tropical plants. "What I'm about to show you is difficult, but you need to see it." She pulled out a tablet, swiping to a series of photographs. Victoria's stomach clenched as she saw Marcus entering Sarah's apartment building at various times, always when he told her he was working late or meeting clients. "These go back 2 months, Catherine said. But that's not the worst part. The next images showed Marcus and Sarah at a bank Victoria didn't recognize. This is a credit union in Tacoma. They opened a joint account 6 weeks ago. I have a contact who confirmed they'd been making regular deposits, amounts that match the discrepancies you found in your company books." Victoria gripped the tablet, her knuckles white. "They're stealing from our company to fund their affair?" "It's more than an affair," Catherine said gently. "I found incorporation documents. They're starting their own agency, Wade and Winters Digital Solutions. They've already approached 3 of your clients." The greenhouse suddenly felt suffocating. Victoria handed back the tablet, trying to process this information. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a calculated destruction of everything she'd built. "There's more," Catherine continued. "The anonymous email to Morrison Industries? It came from an IP address traced to Sarah's home computer. They're trying to destroy your reputation so clients will jump ship to their new company." "But why would they alert me to the financial discrepancies?" Victoria asked. "They didn't. That email came from someone else. Someone trying to warn you." Catherine pulled up another document. "The encryption signature matches emails from your IT department." Victoria's mind raced. Someone in IT had tried to warn her. But who? And why anonymously? "I need everything documented," Victoria said, finding her voice. "Every meeting, every transaction, every client they've approached." "Already done," Catherine said, handing her an encrypted drive. "This contains everything. Your lawyer will know what to do with it." Victoria left the conservatory feeling numb. She sat in her car, rain beginning to spatter the windshield, and called Amanda Rodriguez. "I need to see you immediately," she said when Amanda answered. "It's worse than we thought." An hour later, Victoria sat in Amanda's office while the lawyer reviewed Catherine's findings. Robert Kim, the forensic accountant, had joined them, a slight Korean man whose quiet demeanor belied his reputation for destroying financial criminals. "They'd been sloppy," Robert said, reviewing the data. "The money trail is clear. We can prove embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, and corporate espionage." "What are my options?" Victoria asked. Amanda leaned back in her chair. "We can file criminal charges, pursue civil litigation, or both. But first, we need to protect your remaining assets and clients." "How?" "We file an emergency injunction preventing Marcus from accessing company funds or contacting clients. We also send cease and desist letters to any clients they've approached." "Won't that alert them that we know?" "Yes, but at this point, secrecy is less important than damage control," Amanda said. "They've already shown their hand by sabotaging the Morrison account. Now we show ours. Victoria thought about the company she'd built, the employees who depended on her, the clients who trusted her. Do it. File everything. There's something else to consider, Robert said. Your personal assets. The properties you own with Marcus, the investments. We need to freeze those too. The reality of it hit her. She was about to declare war on the man she'd loved, had planned a future with. What about the condo? You'll need to move out temporarily, Amanda said. Stay with family or friends. Once we file, Marcus might become unpredictable. Victoria thought of David's guest room, a safe harbor in this storm. I can do that. One more thing, Amanda added. Your staff. Some of them might be loyal to Marcus, or simply scared about their jobs. You need allies inside the company. Victoria immediately thought of James, his quiet loyalty and perceptiveness. I have someone in mind. That evening, Victoria met James at a small cafe in Fremont, far from the office and anyone who might recognize them. He listened without interrupting as she explained everything, his expression growing more serious with each revelation. I suspected something, he finally said. The way Mr. Wade and Sarah behaved, the secretive meetings, the altered expense reports crossing my desk. I should have said something sooner. You tried. The anonymous email about the finances, Catherine traced it to our IT department, but I think you sent it. James nodded slowly. I used one of the IT terminals after hours. I wasn't sure what was happening, but I knew you needed to look closer. Thank you, Victoria said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. I need to ask you something. When this becomes public, the company will be in chaos. I need someone I trust to help me hold it together. Will you stand with me? Without question, James said immediately. You gave me a chance when no one else would. I don't forget loyalty. Victoria had hired James when he was fresh out of college, nervous and eager, with a recommendation from a professor she respected. Over 4 years, he'd proven himself invaluable, anticipating needs and solving problems before they escalated. There will be risks, Victoria warned. Marcus has influence. He might try to retaliate against anyone who supports me. Let him try, James said with unexpected steel in his voice. I've been documenting his irregularities for months, just in case. I have copies of altered reports, deleted emails I recovered, recordings of him instructing Sarah to inflate billables. Victoria stared at him in amazement. You've been building a case? I've been protecting you, James corrected. Someone had to watch your back while you were busy running the company. That night, Victoria moved her essential belongings to David's condo. She packed strategically, important documents, valuable jewelry her mother had left her, the laptop with her personal files. Everything else could be dealt with later. Marcus wasn't home, which was both a relief and a confirmation of where he spent his evenings now. Victoria left her key on the kitchen counter with a simple note, I know. David was waiting with Chinese takeout and expensive wine. They sat on his couch, eating in companionable silence while the city sparkled below. Dad would be proud of you, David finally said. You're handling this with grace. I don't feel graceful, Victoria admitted. I feel angry and hurt and foolish. You're not foolish. You trusted someone who proved unworthy of that trust. That's on him, not you. Victoria's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, check your email. A friend. She opened her laptop, finding an encrypted message with attachments. As she read, her eyes widened. Someone had sent her Marcus and Sarah's entire business plan for their new company, including a list of clients they planned to poach and employees they intended to recruit. My God, David said, reading over her shoulder. They were planning to gut your company. But what caught Victoria's attention was the sender's encryption signature. She'd seen it before, on technical reports. Someone in IT was indeed helping her, someone with high-level access who'd been watching this unfold. She forwarded everything to Amanda with a simple message: more ammunition. Tomorrow, the legal documents would be filed. Tomorrow, Marcus and Sarah would discover their scheme had been exposed. Tomorrow, the battle would truly begin. But tonight, Victoria sat with her brother, drawing strength from family loyalty while somewhere across the city, her betrayers celebrated prematurely, unaware that their carefully constructed plans were about to collapse. Friday morning arrived with unusual sunshine, Seattle's notorious rain taking a brief respite. Victoria dressed carefully in her best power suit, a deep burgundy that made her feel invincible, and arrived at the office before 6 a.m. Amanda had confirmed the injunctions would be served at 9 a.m. sharp. The office was empty except for security, giving Victoria time to prepare. She backed up all her personal files, changed passwords on systems Marcus didn't have admin access to, and set up a new encrypted communication channel for loyal staff. At 7 a.m., James arrived with Robert Kim and 2 IT specialists Robert had recommended. "We're going to lock down the servers," Robert explained. "Any attempt to delete files or transfer funds will be blocked and recorded." Victoria watched them work, feeling like a general preparing for siege. By 8 a.m., other employees began arriving, sensing something momentous in the atmosphere. At 8:45, Victoria called an all-hands meeting in the main conference room. 60 faces looked back at her, some curious, others concerned. She noticed Sarah's absence immediately, and Marcus's. "I have difficult news," Victoria began, her voice steady. "Evidence has come to light of serious financial misconduct within our leadership team. Legal action is being taken to protect the company and your jobs." The room erupted in whispers. Victoria raised her hand for silence. "I cannot share all details yet, but I want to assure you, Chen and Associates will survive this. Your positions are secure, and our clients will continue to receive the excellent service they expect." "Where's Marcus?" someone called out. Before Victoria could answer, the conference room door burst open. Marcus strode in, his face flushed with anger, followed by Sarah and, surprisingly, 3 other employees Victoria had considered loyal. "This meeting is unauthorized," Marcus announced. "As co-owner, I'm dismissing it immediately." "Actually," Victoria said calmly, checking her watch, "as of 3 minutes ago, you no longer have that authority." As if on cue, 2 process servers entered the room. The lead server, a stern-faced woman, approached Marcus. "Marcus Wade? You're being served with an emergency injunction freezing your access to company assets and operations, as well as notice of civil litigation for embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty." The room went silent. The server handed similar documents to Sarah, whose face had gone pale. Marcus's voice was dangerous. "You have no idea what you've done." "I protected my company," Victoria replied. "The one we built together before you decided to destroy it." "This is ridiculous," Sarah interjected, trying to sound confident. "These accusations are baseless." Robert Kim stepped forward, connecting his laptop to the conference room screen. "Actually, Ms. Winters, they're quite well documented." The screen filled with financial records, showing the systematic theft, the secret bank accounts, the fraudulent billing. Gasps echoed through the room as employees realized the scope of the betrayal. "Furthermore," Robert continued, "we have evidence of corporate espionage, including attempts to poach clients and sabotage existing accounts." Marcus's face had transformed from anger to calculation. "You think you've won? I built half this company. Those clients came here for me." "Then they're free to leave," Victoria said. "But they won't be going to Wade and Winters Digital Solutions, which has been served with its own cease and desist order." The 3 employees who'd entered with Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Victoria recognized them now, all from Marcus's sales team, probably promised positions in his new venture. Anyone who wishes to resign is free to do so, Victoria announced to the room. But be aware that non-compete clauses in your contracts are fully enforceable, and any participation in corporate theft will be prosecuted. One of the three immediately stepped away from Marcus, shaking his head. I didn't sign up for this. I'm out. Marcus grabbed Sarah's arm. We're leaving. You'll hear from my lawyer. I'm sure I will, Victoria said. Oh, and Marcus? You'll want to check your personal accounts. The condo and investment properties have been frozen pending division of assets. His face went white. You can't. I can and I did. You might want to arrange alternative accommodation. The locks on the condo were changed an hour ago. Marcus started toward her, and for a moment, Victoria thought he might actually become violent. But James stepped smoothly between them, joined immediately by two security guards who'd been waiting outside. I think it's time for you to leave, Mr. Wade, the lead guard said firmly. Marcus looked around the room, seeing no support in the faces of employees he'd worked with for years. His betrayal hadn't just been of Victoria, but of all of them. This isn't over, he said quietly, his eyes locked on Victoria. You're right, she replied. It's just beginning. Criminal charges will be filed Monday. Marcus and Sarah were escorted out, along with the two employees who'd chosen to stand with them. The room remained silent for a long moment after they left. Then someone started clapping. It was Mei Chen from accounting, no relation, despite the shared surname, who'd always been skeptical of Marcus's charm. Others joined in, and soon the room filled with applause. Victoria felt tears threaten but held them back. Thank you all for your trust. We have work to do. Department heads, please meet with me individually this afternoon to discuss transition plans. For now, let's show our clients that Chen & Associates remains the best digital agency in Seattle. As employees filed out, many stopped to offer support. Tom from Creative squeezed her shoulder. Linda from HR promised to handle any personnel issues. Even the normally aloof tech team expressed solidarity. James remained after everyone left. That was brilliantly handled. I don't feel brilliant, Victoria admitted, finally allowing herself to sit. I feel like I've been hollowed out. You've been betrayed by two people you trusted. Feeling hollow is normal. But you stood up there and led. That's what everyone needed to see. Victoria's phone buzzed with a text from Amanda, judge granted all injunctions. Criminal investigation opened. You did it. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. The rest of the day was a blur of damage control. Victoria personally called their top 10 clients, explaining the situation with professional candor. Most were shocked but supportive, especially when she outlined the measures taken to protect their interests. Morrison Industries was particularly understanding. We suspected something was off, their CEO told her. Sarah's recent work had been subpar, and the billing never made sense. We're glad you caught it. By evening, Victoria had retained all major clients and even received a few calls from competitors' clients who'd been approached by Marcus and Sarah, now wanting nothing to do with them. She was reviewing transition plans when her computer chimed with an encrypted message. The same anonymous IT source, check Sarah's desk. Bottom drawer, hidden folder. You need to see what else they planned. Victoria waited until the office was empty, then went to Sarah's desk with James. In the bottom drawer, beneath legitimate files, they found a folder marked Phase 2. Inside were plans that made Victoria's blood run cold. Not just client lists and financial projections, but personal attacks, a drafted press release suggesting Victoria had mental health issues, fabricated screenshots of inappropriate messages, even a plan to plant evidence of drug use. They weren't just trying to steal the company, James said, horrified. They were going to destroy you personally. Victoria photographed everything for evidence. Who's our IT whistleblower? They've known about this all along. I have a theory, James said. Remember Ben Nakamura? Quiet guy, works nights mostly? Victoria vaguely recalled a young man who'd fixed her computer several times, always efficient but barely speaking. He had a crush on Sarah, James continued. Everyone knew it. Maybe he discovered what she was doing and chose loyalty to the company over his feelings. That night, Victoria worked until midnight, then drove to David's condo. She found him waiting with pizza and beer, simple comforts that meant everything. How are you holding up? He asked. I discovered they planned to destroy me completely. Not just professionally, but personally. How do you process that level of hatred from someone you loved? David pulled her into a hug. You don't process it all at once. You take it day by day, surround yourself with people who truly care about you, and remember that their actions reflect their character, not your worth. Victoria slept fitfully, dreaming of Marcus's face when the servers handed him the papers, the moment his mask finally slipped, revealing the stranger he'd always been. Monday morning brought a media storm. Someone, likely Marcus, had leaked the story to the press, spinning it as a hostile takeover by a scorned woman. Victoria woke to find her phone flooded with calls from reporters, each wanting her side of the story. Don't respond to any of them, Amanda advised during an early morning call. We'll craft a single statement and release it through proper channels. But the damage was spreading. Victoria's LinkedIn was bombarded with messages, some supportive, others questioning her leadership. 3 smaller clients called to express concerns about stability. Victoria arrived at the office to find a small crowd of reporters outside. She walked past them without comment, head high, projecting confidence she didn't feel. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but determined. James had arrived even earlier, coordinating with department heads to maintain normal operations. Ben Nakamura wants to see you, James informed her. He's waiting in conference room 3. Victoria found the young IT specialist nervously fidgeting with a USB drive. Ben was perhaps 25, with thick glasses and the pale complexion of someone who lived in server rooms. Ms. Chen, he began, then stopped, gathering courage. I'm the one who sent you the warnings. I suspected as much. Thank you, Ben. Your intervention saved the company. He shifted uncomfortably. I should have come forward sooner. I've been monitoring suspicious activity for 2 months. I have everything, emails, deleted files I recovered, even audio recordings from the conference room. Victoria leaned forward. Audio recordings? Ben reddened. The conference room system has a maintenance mode that records for quality testing. It's supposed to auto-delete, but I saved files when I heard Mr. Wade and Ms. Winters discussing their plans. Is that legal? The employee handbook states that no communication on company property should be considered private. It's on page 47. Victoria almost smiled at his thoroughness. What's on the recordings? Ben inserted the USB drive into the conference room laptop. Marcus's voice filled the room, clear and damning. Victoria's too trusting. By the time she figures it out, we'll have half the clients and the best employees. She'll be left with a shell of a company. Sarah's laugh followed, cold and calculating. The Morrison play was brilliant. Make her look incompetent to her biggest client. Victoria listened to recording after recording, each one more damaging than the last. They'd planned everything, down to which employees to poach and how to frame Victoria for the financial irregularities if discovered. Why didn't you come to me directly? Victoria asked when the recordings ended. Ben adjusted his glasses nervously. I was scared. Mr. Wade could be intimidating. And I thought you might not believe me over him. So I gathered evidence instead. You did the right thing, Ben. Your evidence will be crucial in the legal proceedings. Victoria paused. I want to promote you to head of IT security. We need someone watching for threats, inside and out. Ben's eyes widened. Really? But I'm not senior enough. You've proven your loyalty and capability. Seniority means nothing if it comes with betrayal. After Ben left, Victoria called an emergency meeting with her remaining leadership team. The conference room held 15 people, the survivors of Marcus's attempted coup. We're at war, Victoria said bluntly. Marcus is spreading lies to the media, trying to poach clients, and attempting to damage our reputation. We need to fight back, but smartly. Tom from Creative raised his hand. What about a positive campaign? Show our stability through work quality? Good idea. What else? May from accounting spoke up. I've been reviewing the books. Without the embezzled funds being drained, we're actually in better financial shape than we appeared. We could offer existing clients a loyalty discount, lock them in for longer contracts. Excellent. Linda? The HR director straightened. I'm getting resumes from top talent at other agencies. Word is spreading that we're cleaning house, and good people want to work for ethical companies. Victoria felt a spark of hope. Then let's give them something to join. We're not just surviving this, we're becoming stronger. The meeting energized into planning sessions. Within hours, they developed a comprehensive strategy, client retention programs, a recruitment drive for top talent, and a subtle PR campaign highlighting the company's integrity. That afternoon, Amanda called with news. The district attorney's office is taking the criminal case. Marcus and Sarah will be arrested within 48 hours. Good, Victoria said, though the word felt hollow. She'd loved Marcus, or at least the person she'd thought he was. There's more, Amanda continued. 3 of Marcus's clients from his previous company have reached out. They want to work with you, not him. Apparently, he pulled similar stunts there, though nothing provable. Victoria thought of all the times Marcus had painted his former partners as difficult, unreasonable. Had she been blind, or had he been that good at deception? That evening, she stood in the empty office, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle was lit up in Seahawks colors, the city pulsing with life. Her phone rang. David. Turn on Channel 5, he said urgently. Victoria found the remote and switched on the conference room TV. Marcus's face filled the screen, sitting across from a sympathetic news anchor. Simply trying to protect my interests, Marcus was saying. Victoria became increasingly erratic after her father's death. I tried to help, but she turned vindictive. Victoria's hands clenched into fists as Marcus painted her as unstable, grief-stricken, incompetent. He was charming, convincing, everything that had once attracted her to him. The anchor nodded sympathetically. What about the embezzlement charges? A misunderstanding that my lawyers will clear up. Victoria has access to those same accounts. Who's to say she didn't make those transfers to frame me? Victoria turned off the TV, rage burning through her. But beneath the anger was something else, determination. Marcus had just made a crucial mistake. He'd gone public with lies that could be definitively disproven. She called Amanda. Did you see? Already on it, Amanda interrupted. He just gave us grounds for defamation charges. And going public means we can respond publicly. Are you ready for that? Victoria thought of her father, his quiet dignity in the face of adversity. Set up a press conference for tomorrow. But not just me, I want Ben there, and James, and any employee willing to speak. Let's show them what real loyalty looks like. That night, she didn't go to David's. Instead, she checked into the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, needing space to think. The suite was luxurious but impersonal, a fitting metaphor for her current life. She ordered room service and opened her laptop, beginning to write. Not a press statement, Amanda would handle that, but a letter to her employees, her clients, herself. A manifesto of sorts, about integrity and resilience and the courage to rebuild. At midnight, her phone buzzed. An unknown number, but she recognized the encryption signature, Ben. Check Marcus's cloud storage. Password is Sarah birthday 0915. You need to see this before tomorrow. Victoria logged in, her heart racing. The cloud storage was full of documents, but one folder caught her eye: insurance. Inside were records of Marcus's previous business dealings, including evidence of fraud at his last company, affairs with employees, even a sealed lawsuit for harassment. He'd kept it all, perhaps as leverage or insurance. But the most damning file was a video, dated 3 weeks ago. Marcus and Sarah in her apartment, champagne glasses raised. To Victoria, Marcus said mockingly. May she never see it coming. The perfect mark, Sarah agreed. Rich, lonely, desperate for love. The father's death was perfect timing, Marcus continued. She's been so needy since then. Made it easy to distract her while we set everything up. Victoria closed the laptop, tears finally coming. Not just tears of hurt, but of rage and, strangely, relief. She hadn't been blind to red flags. Marcus had deliberately exploited her grief, her vulnerability. It was calculated cruelty. She forwarded everything to Amanda with a simple note: end them. Tomorrow's press conference would be different now. She wouldn't just defend, she would destroy. Marcus had started this war, but Victoria would finish it. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Chen and Associates office. Amanda had strategically timed it to hit the evening news cycle. Victoria spent the morning with her team, preparing statements and gathering supporting documentation. Remember, Amanda coached, stick to facts. Let the evidence speak for itself. Emotion is fine, but controlled. Victoria wore her mother's jade necklace for strength, paired with a navy dress that projected authority. James and Ben flanked her, along with 5 other employees who'd volunteered to speak. The conference room was packed with reporters, cameras, and microphones. Victoria took her place at the podium, waiting for silence. Thank you for coming, she began, her voice steady. I called this conference to address the false statements made by Marcus Wade and to present the truth about the situation at Chen and Associates. She clicked a remote, and the screen behind her displayed the first document, the incorporation papers for Wade and Winter's Digital Solutions, dated 2 months ago. Mr. Wade claims I forced him out due to grief-induced instability. In reality, he'd been planning his exit for months, while systematically stealing from the company we built together. Click. Financial records appeared, showing the embezzlement trail. Over $300,000 was diverted to fund his new venture with Sarah Winters, our former creative director and his current romantic partner. The reporters scribbled furiously. Victoria continued, each slide more damning than the last. When she played the audio of Marcus and Sarah planning to frame her, several reporters gasped. But the most painful betrayal, Victoria said, allowing emotion to enter her voice, was discovering that Mr. Wade deliberately exploited my father's death to distract me while executing his scheme. She played the video from Marcus's cloud storage. His mocking toast to her being the perfect mark echoed through the silent room. Sarah's laugh, calling her desperate for love, was like a knife. When it ended, Victoria stood straighter. Marcus Wade asked, who's to say I didn't frame him? The evidence says otherwise. But more importantly, these people say otherwise. One by one, her employees stepped forward. James spoke about Marcus's systematic deception. Ben detailed the technical evidence he'd preserved. May from accounting explained the financial discrepancies she'd flagged months ago, only to have Marcus dismiss her concerns. Tom from creative was the most emotional. Marcus Wade didn't just betray Victoria. He betrayed all of US who believed in this company's values. We chose to stand with integrity. The Q&A session was intense but manageable. Victoria answered each question honestly, backed by Amanda's legal guidance. When asked about her emotional state, she didn't hide behind corporate speak. Am I hurt? Devastated? Of course. I loved and trusted someone who viewed me as a mark. But I'm also determined. This company was built on excellence and integrity, and it will continue on those principles. What about the clients Mr. Wade claims will follow him? A reporter asked. Victoria smiled slightly. Our client retention rate this week is 94%. We've also signed 3 new clients who specifically cited our handling of this crisis as a factor. Integrity, it seems, is good for business. The conference ended with Victoria announcing a new company initiative, a fund for employees pursuing continued education, named after her father. He believed in investing in people's potential. That's what Chen and Associates will continue to do. As the reporters filed out, Victoria felt drained but victorious. She'd reclaimed the narrative, exposed the truth, and shown strength in vulnerability. The afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Morrison Industries CEO, Richard Morrison himself, arrived unannounced. The silver-haired executive had built his company from nothing, much like Victoria. I watched your press conference, he said, settling into her office chair. It took courage. It took desperation, Victoria corrected. Marcus was destroying everything. Richard leaned forward. I have a proposition. Morrison Industries wants to acquire a minority stake in Chen and Associates. Not a takeover, a partnership. We believe in what you're building here. Victoria was stunned. Why would you invest now, during this chaos? Because you handled the chaos with integrity. That's rare in this business. Plus, he smiled, I've been where you are. 20 years ago, my partner tried something similar. I know the value of rising from betrayal. They spent 2 hours discussing terms. Richard's offer was generous, enough capital to expand operations, but maintaining Victoria's controlling interest. More importantly, it was a public vote of confidence that would silence doubters. That evening, the media coverage was overwhelmingly positive. The video of Marcus's mockery had gone viral, with public opinion firmly against him. Amanda called with more good news. Marcus and Sarah were arrested an hour ago. The bail is set high enough that they'll struggle to pay it. Also, 3 more of their planned clients have contacted us, wanting nothing to do with them. Victoria felt no satisfaction in their arrest, just a tired sense of justice. She was packing up for the day when Ben appeared at her door. Ms. Chen? I wanted to thank you for the promotion and for including me today. You earned it, Ben. Your courage saved this company. He hesitated. Can I ask you something? How do you trust people after something like this? Victoria considered the question. You don't trust the same way. But you learn to trust better, looking for actions, not words. Consistency, not charm. You trusted me enough to risk your job to warn me. That's the kind of trust worth building on. After Ben left, Victoria stood in her office, looking at the space she'd shared with Marcus for 7 years. Tomorrow, she'd have his office cleared out, his name removed from the door. The physical reminders would disappear, but the lessons would remain. Her phone buzzed with a text from David, proud of you. Dad would be too. Dinner? She smiled, the first genuine smile in days. Your place or mine? Yours. It's time you went home. David was right. The condo would feel different without Marcus, but it was still her home. She couldn't let his betrayal steal that too. The drive to Belltown was peaceful, Seattle's evening traffic lighter than usual. The doorman at her building smiled warmly. Good to see you, Ms. Chen. We've been following the news. Good for you for standing up to him. The condo felt strange, the same space but fundamentally altered. Marcus's things were gone, removed by the moving company Amanda had hired. The emptiness was both sad and liberating. Victoria poured herself wine and stood on the balcony, watching the ferries cross Puget Sound. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Victoria? This is Patricia Wade. Marcus's mother. Victoria nearly dropped the phone. She'd spent holidays with Patricia, had thought of her as almost family. Patricia, I'm calling to apologize, the older woman interrupted. And to warn you. This isn't the first time Marcus has done this. His father and we enabled him, always making excuses. But you don't deserve what he did. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a daughter too, and if someone did to her what Marcus did to you. Just be careful, Victoria. When Marcus feels cornered, he escalates. Document everything, and don't be alone with him. After Patricia hung up, Victoria stood stunned. Even Marcus's mother saw the truth of him. It was validation she hadn't known she needed. David arrived with Thai food and updates from his network. The architecture community is buzzing. Several firms are asking if you need project management for an expansion. Expansion? You just got a major investment from Morrison Industries. You exposed a corrupt competitor. You're going to have more business than you can handle. He was right. Victoria's phone had been buzzing with potential client inquiries all afternoon. From the ashes of betrayal, opportunity was rising. They ate on the balcony, the city lights reflecting off the water. David raised his beer. To new beginnings. Victoria clinked her wine glass against his bottle. To surviving the worst and building something better. What's your next move? David asked. Victoria had been thinking about that all day. First, stabilize the company. Then, expand strategically. But also. She paused, I want to mentor young entrepreneurs, especially women. Show them how to build with integrity and spot the Marcus Wades of the world. Dad would love that. They sat in comfortable silence, siblings who'd weathered loss together and emerged stronger. Victoria thought about the path ahead, legal battles, rebuilding trust, growing the company. It would be hard, but she'd survived the betrayal. Everything else was manageable. Her phone lit up with an email from Amanda. Marcus's lawyer wants to negotiate a plea deal. He's scared. You won. Victoria set the phone aside. She hadn't won, there were no winners when trust was shattered. But she'd survived, and sometimes that was victory enough. The law offices of Rodriguez and Associates hummed with controlled energy as Victoria arrived for the plea negotiation meeting. It had been 2 weeks since the arrests, and Marcus's bravado had crumbled faced with mounting evidence. Amanda met her in the conference room, joined by Robert Kim and a prosecutor named Michael Torres, a sharp-dressed man with piercing eyes who'd built his career destroying white-collar criminals. Marcus's lawyer is Nathan Blackwood, Amanda informed her. He's good, but he knows they're cooked. This is damage control. What could they possibly offer? Victoria asked. Full restitution, plus damages, Torres said. In exchange for reduced charges. But that's their opening. We're going to counter with much more. Nathan Blackwood arrived precisely at 10 a.m., followed by Marcus and Sarah. Victoria hadn't seen them since the confrontation at the office. Marcus looked haggard, his usual polish replaced by desperation. Sarah wouldn't meet her eyes. Let's skip the pleasantries, Blackwood began. My clients are willing to return all misappropriated funds and dissolve their competing venture. That's a start, Torres said coldly. But hardly sufficient given the scope of their crimes. We're talking about embezzlement, corporate espionage, fraud, and defamation. The defamation charges won't stick, Blackwood countered. Amanda smiled, sliding a folder across the table. Actually, they will. Your client went on television and made provably false statements about Ms. Chen's mental state and competence. We have medical records showing she's never been treated for any mental health conditions he alleged. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Victoria noticed his hands were shaking slightly. Furthermore, Torres added, we've uncovered additional crimes. Mr. Wade has been underreporting income to the IRS for 3 years. The federal government is now interested. Blackwood's composure cracked. You're talking about destroying their lives. They tried to destroy mine, Victoria said, speaking for the first time. Everyone turned to her. Marcus used my father's death to manipulate me. Sarah pretended to be my friend while planning my professional ruin. So yes, I want them to face consequences. Sarah finally looked up, tears in her eyes. Victoria, I'm sorry. It wasn't supposed to. Stop talking, Blackwood commanded, but Sarah continued. He said you were too controlling, that you held the company back. He made me believe. Sarah, stop, Marcus hissed. But the dam had broken. He said once we had our own company, we'd be together properly. But then I found out about Rebecca. Victoria's stomach turned. Who's Rebecca? Sarah laughed bitterly. His other girlfriend. The one in Portland he visits on client trips. Turns out I was just another Mark II. The room erupted. Marcus lunged toward Sarah, but Torres was faster, stepping between them. Blackwood looked like he wanted to disappear. I want to make a separate deal, Sarah said to Torres. I'll testify against him. I have recordings, emails, everything. Marcus's face contorted with rage. You recorded me? Just like you taught me to document everything, Sarah shot back. Except I documented you. Amanda called for a recess. As they filed out, Victoria found herself in the hallway with Sarah. The younger woman looked broken. I know you hate me, Sarah began. I don't hate you, Victoria said truthfully. I pity you. You threw away a promising career for someone who was using you. He was so convincing, Sarah whispered. He said you were jealous of my talent, that you'd never promote me properly. He said he saw my potential. Victoria remembered her own seduction by Marcus's charm, his ability to make you feel special, chosen. He's good at that. But Sarah, you made choices. You chose to steal, to lie, to betray colleagues who trusted you. I know. I've destroyed everything. Victoria studied her former creative director, brilliant, ambitious, but ultimately weak. Testify against him. Make full restitution. Then disappear from this industry. That's the best outcome you can hope for. When they reconvened, the dynamics had shifted. Sarah's lawyer had joined, separate from Blackwood. She laid out her offer, full cooperation, return of all funds, and a signed confession in exchange for probation and community service. Acceptable, Torres said after conferring with Amanda. Marcus watched with undisguised hatred as Sarah signed the agreement. His own options had evaporated with his co-conspirator's defection. Mr. Wade, Torres addressed him, you're now facing charges alone. I suggest you reconsider your position. Blackwood whispered urgently to Marcus, who kept shaking his head. Finally, Blackwood sighed. We need another recess to discuss. During the break, Victoria found herself on the building's observation deck, needing air. The Seattle skyline stretched before her, Mount Rainier visible in the distance. Her phone rang, Richard Morrison. How's it going? He asked. Sarah flipped. Marcus is cornered. Good. I wanted you to know, 3 of Wade's former clients from his previous company have reached out to us. They want to share their stories. Apparently, this isn't his first rodeo. Victoria wasn't surprised anymore. Send everything to Amanda. Already done. Also, the investment papers are ready. We can close as soon as your legal situation is resolved. After hanging up, Victoria turned to find James approaching with coffee. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her a cup. How are you holding up? I'm discovering the man I loved never existed. He was always this manipulator, this con artist. How did I not see it? Because you see the best in people, James said simply. It's what makes you a great leader. Don't let his deception change that about you. They stood in comfortable silence until Amanda texted that negotiations were resuming. The afternoon session was brutal. Faced with Sarah's betrayal and mounting evidence, Marcus had no choice but to negotiate. His terms were harsh: full restitution plus 50% in damages, dissolution of all claims to Chen and Associates, a 5-year non-compete clause covering the entire West Coast, and 2 years in minimum security prison. Prison? Marcus said, his voice cracking. For a business dispute? For grand theft, fraud, and conspiracy, Torres corrected. This is generous, Mr. Wade. Trial could result in 10 years. Victoria watched Marcus crumble, the confident facade finally shattering completely. He signed the agreement with shaking hands, then looked at her with something like genuine emotion. I did love you once, he said quietly. Before it all got complicated. No, Victoria replied firmly. Love doesn't do what you did. You loved the idea of me, the access I provided, the life we built. But you never loved me. As they left the conference room, Patricia Wade was waiting in the lobby. Marcus's mother looked older, worn down by her son's actions. She approached Victoria while Marcus was led away by his lawyer. Thank you for not destroying him completely, Patricia said. You could have pushed for more. I got what I needed, justice and freedom. Patricia handed her an envelope. These are letters from his previous victims. They wanted you to know you're not alone, and they're grateful someone finally stopped him. That evening, Victoria hosted a dinner at her condo for her core team: James, Ben, Tom, May, Linda, and surprisingly, David had brought his girlfriend, Anna, whom Victoria had been meaning to meet. To survival, David toasted, raising his glass. To justice, James added. To new beginnings, Victoria concluded. They drank, and the conversation turned to the future. With Morrison's investment and the damages from Marcus, Chen and Associates was positioned for major expansion. I want to create an ethics board, Victoria announced. Independent oversight to ensure this never happens again. And an employee ownership program, May suggested. Give everyone a stake in our success. The ideas flowed freely, creative energy replacing the recent trauma. Anna, a therapist, offered to provide counseling services for employees affected by the betrayal. You're rebuilding more than a company, she told Victoria privately. You're creating a model for ethical business. As the evening wound down, Victoria found herself alone on the balcony with David. The city sparkled below, ferries crossing the dark water like illuminated promises. How do you really feel? David asked. Victoria considered the question, watching a late ferry glide across the dark water. Like I've been through a fire and come out refined. Not unscathed, but purified somehow. That's very philosophical for someone who just destroyed their ex-boyfriend in court. I didn't destroy him, Victoria corrected. He destroyed himself. I just refused to be collateral damage. David squeezed her shoulder. Mom would be proud of you. Dad too. I hope so. Victoria thought of her parents, her mother who'd died when she was 25, her father who'd passed just months ago. They'd taught her strength and integrity, lessons that had carried her through this nightmare. Her phone buzzed with a message from Amanda, Sarah's full testimony tomorrow. Be prepared, there's more she hasn't told us yet. The next morning, Victoria sat in a secure conference room at the district attorney's office while Sarah Winters, looking pale and diminished, provided her full testimony. A court reporter captured every word while video cameras recorded from multiple angles. "State your name for the record," Torres instructed. "Sarah Michelle Winters." "Ms. Winters, you've agreed to provide complete testimony regarding your involvement with Marcus Wade in defrauding Chen and Associates. Please begin with how this relationship started." Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. "It started 8 months ago. Marcus began paying special attention to me, complimenting my work, suggesting I was undervalued. He'd take me for coffee to discuss career advancement." Victoria listened, her stomach churning as Sarah detailed Marcus's seduction, both professional and personal. The pattern was clear: identify an ambitious, slightly insecure employee, shower them with attention, slowly turn them against Victoria. "He said Victoria was jealous of younger women, that she'd never let me advance because I was a threat," Sarah continued. "He showed me emails, I realize now they were probably fabricated, where Victoria supposedly discussed keeping me in my place." "When did the relationship become romantic?" Torres asked. 6 months ago. Right after Victoria's father died. Marcus said she was falling apart, that the company needed new leadership. He painted himself as the savior and me as his partner in that mission. The testimony continued for 3 hours. Sarah revealed Marcus had done this before. She'd found evidence of similar schemes at 2 previous companies. He always targeted successful women, gained their trust, then systematically destroyed them while enriching himself. "There's something else," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "Marcus has offshore accounts. In the Caymans. He's been hiding money there for years, not just from Chen and Associates, but from the IRS." Torres leaned forward. "How do you know this?" "I helped him transfer the most recent deposits. I have the account numbers, the passwords, everything." Victoria felt Amanda's hand on her arm, a reminder to stay composed despite the mounting revelations. Each detail added years to Marcus's potential sentence. "Ms. Winters," Torres continued, "you mentioned other victims. Can you provide names?" Sarah listed 3 women, all successful entrepreneurs who'd had their businesses destroyed by Marcus's manipulations. Victoria recognized one name, Elena Volkov, who'd built a successful PR firm in San Francisco before it mysteriously collapsed 5 years ago. After the testimony, Victoria found herself in the hallway with Amanda and Torres. "With the offshore accounts, we're looking at federal charges," Torres said. "Money laundering, tax evasion, wire fraud. Marcus Wade is looking at 15 to 20 years minimum." "Good," Victoria said, surprised by her own coldness. That afternoon, she returned to the office to find it buzzing with positive energy. James met her at the elevator. "We just landed the Fitzgerald Group account," he announced. "They specifically cited our handling of the crisis as the reason they chose us over larger agencies." Victoria felt a spark of genuine happiness, the first in weeks. "That's a $10 million account. And growing. They want us to handle their entire Pacific Northwest expansion." In her office, Victoria found a beautiful orchid arrangement with a card: "Integrity is its own reward, but success is nice too. Richard Morrison." She was admiring the flowers when Ben knocked. "Ms. Chen? There's someone here to see you." "Elena Volkov." Victoria's pulse quickened. "Send her in." Elena Volkov was a striking woman in her 40s, with sharp cheekbones and intelligent eyes that held deep pain. She entered Victoria's office with careful dignity. "Ms. Chen, thank you for seeing me without an appointment." "You're one of Marcus's previous victims," Victoria said gently. "Please, sit." Elena's composure cracked slightly. "Victim? Yes, I suppose I am. I built my company from nothing, had 40 employees, major clients. Then Marcus Wade entered my life. What happened? The same thing that happened to you, except I didn't have your strength or support system. He destroyed my business, my reputation, my marriage. I lost everything and never recovered professionally. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be proud. You're the first one to stop him, to expose him. You've given the rest of us justice, even if it's delayed. Elena pulled out a folder. I'd been collecting evidence for years, hoping someone would listen. This is everything: emails, financial records, recordings. It shows a pattern going back a decade. Victoria accepted the folder with reverence. This will ensure he never does this again. That's all I want, Elena said. That and to see you thrive. Don't let him steal your light, Victoria. Build something even better from the ashes. After Elena left, Victoria stood at her window, holding the folder. Each page represented a woman's dreams destroyed by Marcus's greed. She thought of her father's words, "Evil thrives when good people do nothing." She'd done something. And she would continue doing something. That evening, she met with Richard Morrison at his private club overlooking the Sound. The investment papers were spread between them. 30% stake for $50 million, Richard summarized. You maintain controlling interest and full operational control. We provide capital and strategic guidance. Why are you really doing this? Victoria asked. You could invest anywhere. Richard smiled. 22 years ago, my business partner tried to destroy me. Stole clients, spread lies, even tried to seduce my wife. I survived, but barely. No one helped me, no one invested in my recovery. I swore if I ever saw someone else going through it, I'd be the ally I never had. Victoria signed the papers, her hand steady. Thank you. Don't thank me. Build something amazing and help the next person. That's how we change things. 6 weeks later, Victoria sat in a federal courtroom as Marcus Wade's trial began. The media attention was intense. The story of betrayal and corporate espionage had captured public imagination. Marcus entered in an orange jumpsuit, his former polish completely gone. He'd lost weight, his hair was unkempt, and his eyes held a desperate fear. He looked at Victoria once, then quickly away. The prosecution's case was devastating. Sarah testified with quiet precision, detailing every crime. Ben presented technical evidence with clarity that impressed even the judge. The forensic accountant laid out financial crimes spanning years. But the most powerful testimony came from Elena Volkov and 2 other women Marcus had destroyed. Their stories created a pattern no jury could ignore. Marcus's defense was weak, claiming Victoria had orchestrated everything to force him out, that Sarah was lying to save herself, that the evidence was fabricated. But faced with overwhelming documentation, his lies crumbled. On day 3, something unexpected happened. Patricia Wade took the stand for the prosecution. Mrs. Wade, the prosecutor began, you're the defendant's mother. Why are you testifying against him? Patricia's voice was steady. Because I failed him as a mother by enabling his behavior for years. I can't undo that, but I can ensure he faces consequences now. She detailed Marcus's history of manipulation, starting in childhood. He learned early that charm could get him out of trouble. His father and I always made excuses, always bailed him out. We created a monster. Marcus's face contorted with rage as his mother continued. He destroyed good people, and we looked away. Victoria Chen is his latest victim, but she's the first to fight back effectively. I'm here to support that fight. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentence, 18 years in federal prison, full restitution, and lifetime prohibition from serving as a corporate officer. As Marcus was led away, he passed Victoria. You destroyed me, he hissed. No, Victoria replied calmly. You destroyed yourself. I just survived it. Sarah's sentencing came next week, 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and permanent prohibition from the marketing industry. She approached Victoria after. I know apologizing means nothing, but I am sorry. You were a good mentor, and I threw it away for someone who was using me. Victoria studied her former protégé. Learn from this, Sarah. Build something honest with your life. That's the only apology that matters. 3 months after the trial, Chen and Associates had transformed. The Morrison investment had funded a new office space, 3 floors in a waterfront building with stunning views. The company had grown to 90 employees, with clients across the Pacific Rim. Victoria stood in her new corner office, larger and more impressive than before, but decorated with warmth, photos of her team, art from local artists she was supporting, and her father's economics textbooks on a shelf of honor. James knocked and entered, now officially Chief Operating Officer. The Seoul team is ready for the video conference. 5 minutes, Victoria said. How are the new hires settling in? Brilliantly. That program you started, hiring women whose careers were derailed by toxic partners, it's creating incredible loyalty and energy. Victoria had launched the Phoenix program, specifically recruiting talented women who'd been professionally sabotaged. With Elena Volkov as a consultant, they'd already helped 12 women restart their careers. Good. And Ben's security protocols? Bulletproof. He's actually getting consulting requests from other companies. Victoria smiled. Ben had bloomed in his new role, his confidence growing with each success. He'd even started dating someone, a lawyer from Amanda's firm he'd met during the trial. The Seoul conference was about launching Chen and Associates Asia, a massive expansion funded by the Morrison Partnership. Victoria presented with confidence, switching between English and Mandarin, showcasing the global vision she'd always harbored. After the call, she found a gift on her desk, a first edition of her father's economics textbook, Restored and Rebound. The card read, "Saw this at an estate sale. Thought you should have it. Catherine Murphy." Victoria held the book, tears flowing freely. Her father would have been proud, not just of her success, but of how she'd achieved it. That evening was the company's relaunch party. The waterfront venue sparkled with lights, filled with clients, employees, and Seattle's business elite. Victoria wore a stunning emerald dress, her mother's jade necklace prominent against it. Richard Morrison raised a toast to Victoria Chen, who showed us all that integrity and success aren't mutually exclusive. The room erupted in applause. Victoria looked around at the faces: James, Ben, May, Tom, Linda, her brother David with Anna, Amanda Rodriguez, even Patricia Wade had come to show support. But what touched her most was a video message that played on the screens. It was from the women Marcus had previously destroyed, each thanking Victoria for giving them closure and hope. Elena Volkov appeared last. You didn't just save your company, Victoria. You saved all of us who thought justice would never come. You're proof that good can triumph. As the party continued, Victoria stepped onto the terrace for air. The Seattle skyline glittered, fairies crossing the sound in their eternal dance. She wasn't alone, a man joined her, someone she'd noticed earlier but hadn't recognized. Ms. Chen? I'm Nathan Park. I run a venture capital firm specializing in ethical businesses. He was handsome in an understated way, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. They talked easily about business, then philosophy, then travel. Victoria found herself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months. Would you perhaps like to have dinner sometime? Nathan asked. Somewhere quieter than this. Victoria hesitated, then thought of her father's other favorite saying, life is for living, not just surviving. I'd like that, she said. As Nathan returned to the party, David appeared beside her. He seems nice. It's just dinner. It's a start, David corrected. You deserve to be happy, Vic, really happy, not just successful. Victoria hugged her brother. I'm getting there. Day by day. 1 year later, Victoria stood before an audience of 200 at the Seattle Women's Business Summit. She was the keynote speaker, sharing her story of betrayal and triumph. The hardest part wasn't the financial loss or public humiliation, she said. It was learning to trust again, trust others, trust myself, trust that good things could happen without hidden agendas. The audience was rapt as she detailed not just the crisis, but the rebuild. Chen and Associates now had offices in Seattle, Seoul, and Tokyo, with 150 employees and a reputation as the most ethical agency in the Pacific Rim. But success isn't just about numbers, Victoria continued. It's about the 12 women we've helped restart their careers through the Phoenix program. It's about the ethical business practices we've made standard. It's about proving that you can do good and do well simultaneously. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, at the reception, Victoria was surrounded by young entrepreneurs seeking advice. She gave it freely, remembering when she was starting out, desperate for guidance. Nathan was there, as he had been for the past 8 months. Their relationship had developed slowly, built on friendship and mutual respect rather than the intense passion she'd had with Marcus. It was healthier, more sustainable, more real. You were amazing, he said, kissing her cheek. I was honest, Victoria corrected. Same thing, in your case. That evening, Victoria hosted a dinner at her condo, the same space where she'd discovered Marcus's betrayal, now reclaimed and filled with new memories. James was there with his partner, Ben with his lawyer girlfriend, David and Anna who were now engaged, and several other close friends. I have an announcement, Victoria said during dessert. Chen and Associates is establishing a foundation for women entrepreneurs who faced professional sabotage. Full funding for business restart, legal support, and mentorship. What will you call it? Anna asked. Victoria smiled, thinking of her father. The Phoenix Foundation. Because sometimes you have to burn before you can rise. Later, as guests mingled, Victoria stood on her balcony with Nathan. The city sprawled before them, lights twinkling with promise. Any regrets? Nathan asked. Victoria considered. No. Every step, even the painful ones, led me here. Marcus tried to destroy me, but he actually freed me. I'm building something better than I ever imagined. And personally? Nathan's question was gentle. Victoria turned to him. They'd been taking things slowly, both cautious after previous betrayals. But she'd learned to distinguish between wise caution and fear-based closure. Personally, I'm learning that vulnerability isn't weakness. That trusting someone new doesn't diminish the lessons learned from betrayal. Nathan took her hand. I love you, Victoria. No agenda, no scheme, just love. Victoria felt tears, happy ones this time. I love you too. They kissed as the ferry horn sounded in the distance, a Seattle symphony of new beginnings. Victoria Chen Park stood in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, watching as 300 guests celebrated Chen and Associates' 20th anniversary. The company had grown beyond her wildest dreams, 10 offices globally, 500 employees, and a reputation as the gold standard for ethical business practices. But tonight wasn't just about business success. The Phoenix Foundation had helped restart 47 careers, funded 23 new businesses, and provided legal support for countless women facing professional sabotage. Mommy, up. 3-year-old Lily Park reached for Victoria, who lifted her daughter easily, designer dress be damned. Nathan appeared with their son, 18-month-old Daniel, sleeping in his arms. Your speech is in 5 minutes, Nathan reminded her gently. Victoria kissed her daughter's head, breathing in the scent of baby shampoo and possibility. Her family, something she thought Marcus had stolen her chance at, was now her greatest joy. James approached, now president of Chen and Associates, running daily operations while Victoria focused on vision and the foundation. Elena Volkov is here. She wanted to thank you again. Victoria found Elena in the crowd, now running a successful consultancy helping companies build ethical practices. They embraced warmly. Look what we built from the ashes, Elena said, gesturing at the room full of successful, ethical business leaders. We all built it, Victoria corrected. Every person who chose integrity over easy profit, who stood up to corruption, who helped someone else rise. The lights dimmed, and Victoria took the stage, Lily still in her arms because her daughter refused to let go. 20 years ago, I started Chen and Associates with nothing but ambition and integrity, she began. 5 years ago, someone tried to destroy both. They failed, not because I was strong, but because good people stood with me. She looked at the faces in the crowd, employees, clients, Phoenix Foundation recipients, family. Marcus was serving year 6 of his sentence, his assets long ago distributed to his victims. Sarah had moved to Montana, working as a ranch hand, finding redemption in honest labor. Tonight, I want to announce the Phoenix Foundation's biggest initiative yet, a nationwide network of support for anyone facing professional betrayal. No one should face these battles alone. The applause was deafening. Lily clapped too, not understanding but caught in the joy. Later, as the party wound down, Victoria stood with her inner circle, James, Ben, David, Anna, and Nathan. They raised glasses of champagne. To survival, James toasted, echoing that night years ago. To justice, Ben added. To family, David contributed, his own children playing nearby. To integrity, Anna offered. To love, Nathan said, eyes on Victoria. Victoria raised her glass last. To rising from the ashes, stronger and more beautiful than before. They drank, and Victoria felt her father's presence, her mother's strength, the weight of struggles overcome and victories earned. Outside, Seattle glittered in the rain, the city that had witnessed her fall and rise. The ferries continued their endless journeys, lights reflecting on dark water, carrying people toward new shores. Victoria Chen Park had been betrayed, broken, and rebuilt. She'd lost a love that was false and found one that was true. She'd saved a company and built an empire. She'd been a victim and become a victor. But most importantly, she'd learned that betrayal, no matter how devastating, couldn't destroy someone who refused to be destroyed. That integrity, though costly, paid dividends beyond measure. That trust, once shattered, could be rebuilt stronger and wiser. As she tucked her children into bed that night, Lily asked, "Mommy, tell us a story." Victoria sat on the bed, Nathan beside her, and began, "Once upon a time, there was a woman who built castles in the clouds. Someone tried to knock them down, but she learned to build on solid ground instead." The children fell asleep to the story of resilience, of phoenixes and fresh starts, of love that endures and success that matters. And in her home office later, Victoria opened her laptop to find an email from a young woman in Texas whose business partner had betrayed her. "I heard about the Phoenix Foundation. Can you help?" Victoria smiled and began typing. "Yes. Here's what you do first." The cycle continued, women helping women, integrity defeating corruption, good people standing together against those who would destroy for gain. Marcus Wade had tried to break Victoria Chen. Instead, he'd forged her into something unbreakable. And from that forging had come not just personal triumph, but a movement, a foundation, a legacy of lifting others from their own ashes. The rain continued against the windows, Seattle's eternal song. But inside, there was warmth, love, and the quiet satisfaction of a life rebuilt on truth. Victoria closed the laptop and went to bed, where Nathan was already waiting. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to help, new chances to prove that good could triumph over evil. But tonight, she was simply grateful, for survival, for love, for the phoenix flight from betrayal to triumph.